Well, it's a Saturday night tonight, got nobody.
Brian, he's spoken to you.
Yes, he has.
Oh,
We live.
yeah.
You got it? Yeah, I think so. Hello, everybody. Are you using...
I'm on your one.
hello, everybody. Technical talk. Don't know if you caught me singing. I don't sing. My name is Mark, and Rob's with me on camera this afternoon. And Brian, and Darren, and Leon, and Andy back in final control. And we're heading north. We're going back to where we left off this morning. We're going to wander around there and see how things go. Hoping that we're going to find something. This is Thornybush Game Reserve, near the Kruger National Park in South Africa. And this is Africa coming to you live from this little vehicle that could go anywhere and do anything. Where's a piece of wood? Can't even reach it. But oh, look, a jacket club. But you know what I mean. It's a really good little vehicle. It's kitted out with amazing equipment, like a camera here, and a camera here, and another camera at the back there. And we got a lovely Saturday afternoon to find you something. I hope we're going to. It's time to find something big and hairy, or something with big teeth and big ears, or just something. We had a little bit of rain earlier on, a little bit of a shower, something I was anticipating based on cues I was picking up from the bush, things like what ants were doing and what snakes were doing. And it's all blown away for now. Got a lovely little bit of sunshine. This is the Thornybush River. I'm sure there might be some new viewers there, and I'm also sure that the viewers that have been with us for the last couple of days wouldn't mind me repeating a few things, because I'm sure we're always going to have new viewers along. We have about 30,000 hectares of Thornybush Game Reserve to traverse, and although it's a self-contained reserve, it has a very good complement of wildlife, very much the same as areas just outside the reserve, areas like Kruger. Obviously a slightly different density and different dynamics because it's a self-contained reserve. Actually, I think we want to go that way for a change. Just for a change. We're going to go that way. We're going to head west and north. See how far we get. Look for tracks. Tracks, look for signs of animals, and hopefully we'll be able to find them. At the moment I've got some giraffe tracks, a big male giraffe. It's gone up that way. Maybe we'll see him. He came from here, he must have been down here in the riverbed, and he's gone back up around the back of these trees. The fantastic thing about being live to the rest of the world. Oh, there's a bush buck lying down in the bushes, hiding away. Can you see it in there? Well, it's not even lying down, it's standing up. The reeds are so high, but it's... You see through that gap?
Yeah, got it.
Very, very shy antelope. The smallest of the spiral horned antelope, family of the Nyala, the Kudu, the Eland. She is... I can't see her. Is she gone?
Yeah, she's still there.
very typical of antelope that live, or for that matter any animal that live in rather dense vegetation, is that they're solitary or in pairs perhaps. Not a gregarious animal. It doesn't do them any good to live in big groups. It's a little bit dangerous because they can't keep in contact with each other. More than one individual makes a lot of noise, so they give their position away. It's a lot quieter for these animals to live on their own, especially like a leopard, if you're a predator, to be able to stealthily move through thick bush.
Beautiful little animal, eh?
Oh, stunning. They're dainty. In fact, the male bushbuck is known as the prince of the forest. I guess that makes her a princess. I can't see her though. She's just standing there?
Yeah, she's feeding.
Feeding.
Got it back to us now.
Okay. I'm worried if we sort of go level with her, that it might push her deeper into the reeds. Bushbuck, once upon a time, bushbuck were quite plentiful along these rivers, and even along dry river beds where there's relatively thick vegetation. But they just seem to be displaced these days by the nyala, slightly bigger antelope, their bigger cousins, who obviously dominate over them, push them up. They create too much competition for food, and the bushbuck can't compete with them. Some more cloud moving in. I hope it's not bringing some more rain. Yebo. Okay. I'm going to drive relatively quietly past that area. Now, before I found this bushbuck, I was telling you about how wonderful these live drives are and what it means, the kind of technology that we have today, these days, being able to be in touch with social media, being able to be in touch with the rest of the world. Yeah, she looks like a youngster, now that I can see her. Just a little, yeah, no.
Not enough for the camera.
That's actually, it is a youngster. A baby, waiting for mommy to come home. A lot of herbivores that have youngsters, particularly when they're still suckling, they leave their youngsters for quite a long period of time. They go off to feed, replenish the milk, and they'll come back. Giraffe are actually famous for that. You might see something like that. Right, so being live allows me to be in touch with you, and well, vice versa. I'm in touch with you through the medium of these cameras and the broadcasting, and you can be in touch with me through emails, and you can send in emails, and they will be monitored by Brian this afternoon back in Final Control. Final Control is our sort of office, our broadcast area back at camp, and Brian will be able to tell me, he'll whisper in my ear, like the question from Joanne in Michigan, Joanne McCullough. Hello Joanne, nice to hear from you. Joanne wants to know about certain animals here at Thornybush, hippos, crocodiles and monitor lizards. And yes, Joanne, I'm not too sure which dams have got hippo or crocs, and I'm not too sure about the population of crocodiles here in the Timbavati River. I haven't seen any signs of them yet. There might be some pools where they are. The areas that we've been crossing the river, well, there's one area that's got a nice big pool of water, but this crossing that we've just been across now, and there's another crossing, it's a very, very shallow, very slow flow of water, so it's not really the place to find crocodiles. Crocodiles are going to be in deeper pools, so hippo for that matter. But there are no tracks of hippos here. There's certainly no signs of hippo down here along the river. And if there are crocodiles and the water is starting to recede, or rather drop because we're going into the dry season, crocodiles might be moving to more permanent pools, and we might find their tracks on the sand in the riverbed or at these crossings when we're crossing them. So I'm not too sure about what is here on the river. Definitely monitor lizards along the river, but there are some dams further up in Thornybush, and we will be visiting some of them. We're going to possibly go back to one of them this afternoon, where I was earlier today. We're going to have a look around there, and I'm sure we'll find somewhere where there is where there are either hippos or crocs. I'm also going to be speaking to one of the head guides soon, having a meeting with him, and we'll be chatting about Thornybush in general, but also I'll be learning a lot of facts from him about where permanent waters are, where things like hippos and crocs hang out, to try and give you a much broader idea of the range of wildlife that we can find here at Thornybush. It's not going to work. Monitor lizards you find pretty much anywhere. We have two species of monitors. Here in South Africa. Two species that are family of things like the Komodo dragon from the islands in Indonesia and the goanna from Australia. They're a species of Varanus, and here we have two. One is the Nile monitor, Varanus niloticus, and the other one is the white-throated monitor, also known as a rock monitor. Some people call it a tree monitor, some people call it a savanna monitor, but it's actually just the white-throated monitor. As its name implies, albicularis. Albi meaning white, gularis meaning the gula area, the throat area. That's the white-throated monitor. And the Nile monitor grows a little bit longer than the white-throated, although I think you could probably say that the white-throated can get heavier. I mean, I've seen some pretty heavy white-throated monitors. Huge white-throated monitors. Sorry, Rob. Going under trees that are knocking the aerial, the antenna. And of course, being different monitors, they have different diets. White-throated monitor that lives out in the bush away from water will feed on eggs, birds' eggs, and insects, snails. I've noticed before how they dig up the young of the giant African land snails and munch them with relish. Believe it or not, things like the Nile monitor eats maybe crocodile eggs, also fish, birds, frogs, anything it can get its powerful little jaws around. And as with most of the monitor lizards, like the larger cousins from other parts of the world, they have very powerful tails, used as weapons, used as defense used in defense. And very, very long claws, especially the white-throated monitor, used for climbing trees. The weather doesn't know what it wants to do, so I don't know whether I'm hot or cold. At the moment I'm getting hot, and as soon as I take my jacket off I'm going to be cold.
It's singing exactly the same now.
We've still got some pretty dark sky that might move over us. So. So questions can be sent to drivequestions@wildearth.tv. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I know we do have a lot of viewers who are not able to join us during the week, so there are part-time viewers who are going to be with us on weekends like today. And of course there are the time zone changes and all of that. So sometimes people who can be with us in the morning but can't be with us in the afternoon. Our morning and our afternoon, I mean. Sometimes our morning is midnight in places where a lot of people might want to view it and they have work the next day. And sometimes our afternoon drive is morning elsewhere and they have work that day. So it can be a little bit difficult for those of you in vastly different time zones, 6 to 8, maybe 10 hours difference. But it's nice to know where you're from. If you are going to email, send in emails, and well, it gives me an idea of where you are and what the time zone is more or less in your part of the world. Oh, I must have ended that because alright, let's start with the first part, because I think of the first part you can get me the second part of that question shortly. From Donna. Hello Donna. Donna was asking about, it's actually a very important question, a very interesting question, and one that I will answer to the best of my ability. It's about animal behavior and the way the animals react to vehicles. Now here in Thornybush, I'm guessing, I know that all the vehicles look alike because they're all painted the same colors, and that is important to some degree. But whether they're all Land Rovers or whether there are a few Land Cruisers is another matter. But nonetheless, the animals here have all experienced the different vehicles that there are here. Even if they, say, if you take two Land Rovers, to an animal they both sound different. They might look the same, but an animal will pick up a difference, especially because they're driven by different people and the revving and things make a different noise. But it's the behavior of the guide who's driving the vehicle and what he does with that vehicle that is important. And as far as I know, the guides here are all pretty compassionate and careful about what they do with the animals and how they behave. And so yes, the animals have become accustomed to the vehicles that drive around. And because the Jigger is a little bit different in that, well, I know first of all it is a petrol driven vehicle, it's not a diesel driven vehicle, so it makes a different noise. That is important. It is a little bit shorter. It has things on it that the other vehicles don't have that make the outline of the vehicle a lot different to the vehicles that drive around with the tracker on the front and the guests on the back. And so yes, to some degree the animals are going to maybe see us as something a little bit different. It's going to be interesting when we get to the elephants and we're talking to elephants to see how the elephants will react to us as well. Well, I suppose the lion and the leopard too. And that's something that is going to be interesting because I can't tell you how they're going to behave as yet. But yes, I think they will notice that it is different. But I don't think in a negative way. I think the fact that they are somewhat relaxed and they are accustomed two vehicles, I think it works in our favor. So far we've had a lot of wind, and we haven't had great conditions for game viewing since we've really started. So it's been cold, there's been wind, it's been a little bit awkward. So we haven't really had the opportunity to get close to anything or spend time with anything other than the few herbivores that we've seen so far. And the real test will come when we're with elephant and lion and leopard. Thought I saw something in there. Baboon tracks on the road. Wondering if they're the baboon troop that live near camp. We're shouting 2 mornings in a row because there have been leopard around that area. They've just not been around an area where I've been able to find them or even follow up on them. But I shall do that first thing in the morning. It's the kind of a morning thing to do with leopards, unless you know where one is. But to listen to cues during the night, in particular leopard calling during the night, and then the sound of maybe alarm calls, but also first thing in the morning when leopards are moving, the key is to keep an ear open for impala shouting, baboon, monkeys, birds. Something just went in that hole. Could have been a lizard. It's not going to come out again. Probably sunning itself. Sorry. It just went as I lifted my hand and saw it disappeared. There was a second part to the question that Joanne asked. Well, was it? No, it was Donna. What was Donna's other part of the question, Brian? The other part of the question was about one of our leopards from a previous incarnation of the live drives, a young lad called Mishu. Mishu and Induna were 2 brothers. They were the second litter of a leopard called Karula. And Donna wants to know, would a leopard like Mishu come this far north to look for a territory? The simple answer then is no, Donna. It's physically impossible. He would have to go on such a roundabout route to be able to get here, because there are villages and towns, there are main roads and so many fences. But I suppose it's not that impossible. He'd have to go through a number of electrical fences and a lot of different properties, but he'd have to run the gauntlet of cattle and goats and humans and towns and villages and traffic, and I don't think he would actually. I don't think a leopard would do that. Well, you never know. I mean, I always said you can never say for certain what an animal will or won't do, because as soon as you say they won't do something, you can be sure they are going to do it. I just think that it's too far and there's just too much in between us for him to be able to do that. Amy, in Minnesota, wanted to know how many elephant there are here in Thornybush. And, well, Amy, as far as I know, there are about, what is it, 80 odd? No.
Yeah, 80,
70 or 80 odd elephant, that roughly about four family groups. But numbers of animals and things like that, I really would rather be here a while and learn a little bit more. Otherwise I'm going to be saying I don't know and I'll find out a lot. We've only just started. I haven't even been here a week. I've been here 5 days. So I have a lot of learning to do. I have a lot of catching up to do. But until I can sit down and chat with the guides And it unfortunately hasn't happened yet. Today, for the first time on the drive, I met two of the guides, and it's going to require some time of chatting and making notes. I do have notes of the elephants, and I do have notes of the leopard. I have read through them, but there's been a little bit of other things on our mind at the moment, getting live and getting things up and running and worrying about where we can go and what we can view. So once, and I'd say that within a day or two we're going to be in a better routine for me to be able to concentrate on making the notes that I have, thanks to Jerry and to Leon for providing some notes. And I'll be able to add to them, and then I'll be able to answer number questions of how many of this and how many of that. I'd also like to know what method they use to do game counts here, to monitor their animal numbers. I'm sure to a large extent they rely on the guides and photographic records of all the individuals, because the guides driving around and using a huge network of roads. They pretty much cover most of the large species for them to get an idea of the individuals and numbers that should be relatively accurate. It might not, well, it definitely doesn't necessitate aerial surveys to count the large mammals. Game counts from the air, which they do around my place and the rest of Kruger. There's vast areas without road networks that they need to monitor these large species. This is Africa. This Africa that we're in, this piece of it that we're in, is as much of an a bit of exploring for me as it is for you. And I think the wonderful thing about it is that while I'm exploring a new area, I've got you with me with all these cameras for us to all explore it together. So to a large extent, or to some extent, I know as much as you do. So we're finding things out together, and that is an exciting part of the next 3 months. Once this first week is under our belt, we're all going to know a whole lot more and be able to have a lot more. Baboons were here after I was here this morning. Went back to the river. Nyala up ahead. Young Nyala, two very young Nyala on there, crossing the road without mommy. They looked right, they didn't look left. No road sense, these animals. They've disappeared. Spell it for me. Yeah, it's doing funny things to me too. I mean the radio, it's cutting out. Dia sent a question and we're trying to get Dia's question through, but the radio keeps cutting out. Thornybush site shows cheetah. Should be more vertical. Unfortunately, it gets in the way of the camera. Try now. The still cutting out. Radio's cutting out. We had 20 dBs here this morning. What I've just done now is I marked on the map the strength of the signal that we have here. What we've been doing, what I've been trying to do. One thing that I did this morning after drive ended was I drove around a little bit to areas that we haven't been yet, just to mark off where the signal drops away completely, just so that we know where our locations are. This is temporary because at the moment we're only dealing with the equipment that we have on hand. Okay, bad area. And then it gets bad and good. Should be good now. No, I can't. It's cutting out all the time, Brian. I got the beginning of that. Let me just carry on with that. I don't know why the radio is doing this now. But hello, Sumac. A question about the lion prize. And once again, before I answer this, I have to tell you, I've only just got here. I do have notes on these animals, but I need a few days to get into all of this to be able to answer these questions with more conviction, because well, I need to talk to guides and things. But Sue wanted to know about the lion prides and how many there are. And once again, if you could please bear with me for the next few days, and I will be making a concerted effort to get answers about each individual animal and compositions of pride. I know that there's a northern pride and a southern pride. I know that with the northern pride there is a male. There are a bunch of females and cubs up there. There are down here in the south where we are. There are 2 lionesses with cubs. And I'm hoping that while we're on these drives, that we're going to be able to see them well enough that I'm going to be able to show you how to remember each individual, how to sort of look for distinguishing features on each individual that will be able to let us recognize the individuals as we go along. There are lion here, and we will be finding them, and it's just going to be a matter of time until we learn all the numbers and that kind of data. But we are only just beginning. So right now, in the beginning, it's an exciting time to try and figure out all these answers to the questions that are coming in about how many of this and how many of that. I think for now, for me personally, it suffices to say that these animals are here, and I just want to find them and get to know them and learn them a little bit, to see them a little bit better. Let's try this. This takes us to that dam. Or past. The dam will be on our left. We're going this way instead of on our right, the other road. But looks like a road, sort of. Not working. I've got Sandra, and that's it. There's a question from Sandra. What kind of fish there are? Okay. What kind of fish, and what else is about the fish? Sandy wants to know what kind of fish we have. Oh, what animals eat the fish? Trying to squeeze in the words before the radio cuts out. What kind of fish do we have? Sandy in Wisconsin. Sandy, welcome. I suppose you could say the most common fish species, most common fish that we have is the catfish, the broadhead catfish. Oh, I've even got my fish book with me. And second to the catfish, I'd say, is the Mozambique tilapia. Now there are a lot of smaller fish that might swim upstream from the larger rivers that we might find maybe in the Timbavati River. I have them in the rivers at home, in the dry riverbeds. When they flow at home, I have these fish that swim upstream from the Olifants River. Things like little fish called robbers and labios, and the species of Plecostomus, which is like an algae eater type fish. Very interesting looking fish. I think they're also known as squeakers. And Sandy also wanted to know what eats the fish. Well, I think if we could start with the largest animals that eat the fish, we could say probably leopard. I don't think of anything, maybe lion. If they come across catfish migrating up 2 inches of water in a dry riverbed, I guess it's remotely possible that lion might try it. So of the mammals, we have things like leopard, Wonder what other mammals would eat fish. Other predators of the cat family, maybe hyena would scavenge fish. Okay, gotta switch that off. Can't have that. And I'll think about maybe more mammals that might eat fish. Of course, there are a bunch of birds that eat fish, and the largest of all is perhaps things like the marabou stork, the yellow-bill stork, saddle-bill stork. Those are the large fish-eating birds. Herons, grey heron, the Goliath heron, the purple heron, maybe the black-headed heron. Then there are the smaller eagles, like the fish eagle. Only smaller than I say smaller because they're smaller than the storks. But of course they are quite big birds, the fish eagles. We do get osprey in some places. I have occasionally seen an osprey come through South Africa, but it's not a very common bird to see in South Africa. And I know that the palm nut vulture might scavenge, although it's mostly vegetarian, the palm nut vulture. I think it might scavenge. And the most important owl species, one of the most incredible owl species, is the Pell's fishing owl. It's an exquisite bird, only found on major rivers and very, very seldom seen. And then there are all the kingfishers. And once again, it's not all the kingfishers that eat fish. It's only really 4 species of kingfishers. We have the large giant kingfisher, and then the slightly smaller pied kingfisher. And then one of the blue kingfishers that's likely to eat fish, or will eat fish because it's a riparian kingfisher, is the half-colored kingfisher, only lives on flowing water. And then there's the very small malachite kingfisher. But there are a bunch of kingfishers that actually live out here in the bush, and they are not fishing kingfishers. They are insectivorous kingfishers. I think what happened a long, long time ago, there was a little bit too much competition amongst the waterways with all the different kingfishers for their. So that I don't know. Some of them decided it's easier to go and catch insects. And now I don't know where I am, but it doesn't matter. We're just ambling along because any road is as good as the next, and it's the law of averages that eventually we're going to bump into something. Although, come to think of it, I want to go back up there. That road we've just come across, I want to go back up that road. So we'll do this little loop along the drainage line. This is that one road called something north. There's a road that way on something same thing south. This is going to be a little bit difficult with the antenna on this road. So I'm actually going to go back to that other road. We'll go up to Lang Wan Dam. I think I'm going to have to take my jacket off. I was only kidding. I do know where I am, sort of. You can't get lost here. There are roads that are north, south, east, west. There are certain roads that very clearly are cut lines. One just has to follow a cut line. Am I seeing a gardenia flower? I am indeed. And unfortunately it's closed, but here's a flower for my ladies today. I'm going to take my jacket off. Unfortunately it's closed up. There is another one that is a couple of days old, the brown one wilting next to it, and then there's a new one about to open up at the top there. This is the Transvaal gardenia, and just like any gardenia anywhere else in the world. It has a beautiful flower. Very, very aromatic scent to the flower. And quite typical of the family. I'm going to have to repeat that, Brian. Sorry, I'm just getting something in my ear. That's why I stop mid-sentence. Sometimes I've got to listen to the radio. If you could repeat that about flowers from a question on flowers, funnily enough. Gina. Can't understand her. Yes, indeed. That I heard. Why did I hear that and not the question? All of these, of this family of flower, the Rothmanias and the gardenias, and the flowers are perfect the first day, and the second day they start going a little cream colored. I mean, perfect white, and then the third day, cream starts turning to yellow, and then eventually a deep yellow and orange, and then eventually they go brown. So in the flowering season, you'd actually have a tree with all the different colored flowers on it, from white all the way through to brown. Very pretty. Okay. Maybe when I'm on a little higher ground, maybe the radio will be a bit better. I think we're also getting a slightly skewed idea of what kind of wildlife there is here because of the weather. I might have said that already, but it is a fact, especially because there was a little bit of rain, and the animals would have felt that coming already yesterday. Yesterday I was seeing a few things and I was thinking, maybe rain coming. And this morning I pointed out a few things to Brian and said, I think there's rain coming, because animals were, well, insects in particular. There were termites that were busy, there were ants covering their holes. Some impala down there. We're approaching this dam now that we were at this morning. Might be something there. I noticed a couple of young impala rams that were fairly close to it. We might see them. Yep, here they are coming up shortly. Maybe we have to resort to text messages. These youngsters in the foreground, there are four of them. There's one older ram at the back, but these three boys... Oh, rolling, sorry. There we go. These other three boys must have only recently left their herd. Up until now, they've been with the females for well over a year. They would have been yearlings in November, December, so they're about going on a year and a half now. And this would be the first time that they've pushed out of the herd as we're going into the rutting season. The rutting season actually is in full swing at the moment. If not maybe coming to a close towards the end of May. And when they get pushed out, they have to join up with bachelors who don't have a family or a breeding group of their own. They haven't managed to assert dominance and claim a group of females. Now, it doesn't really matter very much if you're an impala ram and you don't have females to begin with, because as you can see, these boys don't have very much work to do at the moment. They might do a little bit of sparring and then hone their skills. And in the process of honing their skills and sparring with each other, they establish a hierarchy and they learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. But they're feeding themselves up and they're getting very, very fit and they're getting very, very strong and very, very healthy, as opposed to the dominant ram who at the beginning of the season was like that. He hadn't been fighting and hadn't been doing much other than eating the whole summer and fattening himself up. But suddenly when the females come into estrus and the dominant ram secures a herd of females for himself, and it comes time to cover them all, because it's all a very short period of time that they have to do this, that he spends all his day chasing women, female impala, chasing the females and chasing other males away, especially these little boys who've just left the herd. All they want to do is go back to mom. For the first 18 months or 15 months of their life, they've been in the herd, they've had the security of the herd and the females, and now suddenly they're out on their own with these cantankerous old rams, and they just want to go back to mom. And of course the dominant ram, all he's going to do is keep chasing them away. So the dominant ram loses condition within a couple of weeks. He doesn't really have much time for eating. He's chasing these youngsters away from their mothers, and he's chasing the older rams like the one at the back who want to take over from him. And it eventually reaches a point where they lose condition sufficiently to be ousted from the herd, and a ram like that older one at the back then takes over, and so you get a different injection of genes coming into a big herd of impala. You don't only have one male mating with them all, and you'll have probably a succession of 3-4 males with one herd throughout the mating season. Let's go down to the water. One thing I can guarantee we are going to see almost every day on the impala. What are you shouting at? Go away, bird. Okay. Brian, you want to try and talk to me and ask me that question about flowers while I was on the subject of flowers? Dina Myers, are we still in the flower season? Well, there isn't, yes, no, in that we're not in the spring flower season for that time of year when everything breaks into or bursts into bloom, species by species, and you get a really beautiful show, especially in a place like this. You're looking out over a dam, the trees on the opposite side. From that point of view, no. However, there are flowers that flower at the end of the season. There's some flowers that flower in autumn, some flowers that flower in winter. So we have a climate that doesn't really get so cold that things have to close up completely like they do in parts of the world where you get a lot of snow and ice and things freeze up. Yeah, our daytime temperatures are still warm enough to allow some animals, some insects and things to move around. So it's still good enough for flowers to be out. There's still going to be pollinators. And obviously over time there are some flowers that will only be open at this time of the year because those are the only insects that are around at this time of the year. I'll probably be able to get down there. I don't think anybody would like it very much. Right, let's sit here and listen for a little bit. Am I seeing a pink flower? A brown Malachite kingfisher. Don't know if you can get him. Is he? If you can get on him, I'll try and drive closer. And I want to see, we need to go back and see what those go-away birds are shouting about, unless it's us, but they could be shouting about a predator. We were talking about kingfishers earlier, one of the most beautiful little kingfishers. These little Malachite kingfishers. They don't hover like the pied kingfisher or the giant kingfisher. Well, giant kingfisher also hunts from a perch. But these little malachites can literally sit on a blade of grass sometimes over the water, catch all the little fingerlings. Please stay there, child. Try and get a little bit closer to this little thing. It's the most beautiful little bird. All of maybe 3 inches long. But you've probably got things in the way. No? Okay, maybe 3.5 inches. Maybe nearly 4. And back again. He's caught something. Caught a fish. And it swallowed it in one go. Didn't even beat it to death. The one thing about little Malachite kingfishers is they generally do come back to the same perch that they were on, because obviously if it's productive when they've caught something, it's likely to be productive again rather than go to another place. How it can find a little tiny fish like that and just dive in without the fish flying away. It's just one of those wonders of nature. It's almost like it's got self-polarizing lenses in its eyes.
Open up the camera so you can get a bigger view to see if it does hit something.
Yeah. Would be. Not even looking at the water now. Got the most beautiful electric blue back. Fortunately, it's facing us more or less, so we can't really see the colors. And of course, we don't have the greatest light now with all this cloud. but in sunlight it's iridescent. Just getting back to the flower question, whether it's flower season or not. The fact that we've had such late rains also has extended the flowering season a little bit. There shouldn't really be gardenia flowers at this time of the year. But by the same token, there shouldn't be marula fruits. And there's a tree above where our cars are parked that's still got green marula fruits 6 months after they should be green. Or after the rest of the world's marula trees were green. It's really unusual. I've never seen that before. So, I don't think we can really say what is usual and what isn't anymore. There's things that are happening quite out of the ordinary. What was that little dance that it just did?
It's on the ground now.
No, it just squirted on a twig. No. Squirted. Maybe it's because of the wind. You heard me say they always go back to the same perch. Decided to prove me wrong. I'm wondering if we shouldn't go back to that jackalberry where that go-away bird is. It's my observation. Start this marula tree once again. I think we need to do that. Oh, he's back on another perch. Hello, Kay. Are the kingfisher's feathers blue? Yes. Or maybe there's another part to that question that I didn't get. Or is it reflected light? Well, that's a good question, Kay, because actually it is reflected light. It's reflected light, everything but the blue spectrum. So that's why we're seeing that kind of a color, because the light that is reflecting is everything but blue. Or no, only blue, except, yes, that's what it is. It's only blue light that is being reflected, so it comes up as that blue to some extent. And I've heard that theory before. That's too scientific for me. I think we'll go back to where this go-away bird was shouting. We'll just have to unhook the antenna. Excuse me, little one. Well, actually, before we do, what I'm going to try and do is try and get to, see if it'll let us get this far past it. I don't know if you'll be able to. It's gone. So I'm going to try and. It's gone further back. Gone into that little bush willow hanging over the water. That thing hanging out of the GoPro, the gold, the brass. Okay, I better look at the road and not the kingfisher. It's a very steep drop. thing is that those impala kind of came from where this lorry was shouting, so hello Wendy. Wendy wanting to know if there's any leopard around here. There are, Wendy. There's a very good population of leopard. If I have to think of another reserve, I know that's about the same size as Thornybush. Trying to think. There are 29 known different leopard in another reserve that is also self-contained. That's roughly 30,000 hectares, and this is about the same size, which is roughly Franklin, I'm sorry, yes, making such a noise. Roughly 1,000 hectares per leopard, but that also is not a figure that you can use or say that that's how it is everywhere else, because I know that in the Sabi Sand, for example, the density of leopard is much greater, and the leopards don't have that larger territory. In fact, the males do, but the females don't. And in terms of how far we are from the Sabi Sand, probably about 50 kilometers. No, maybe not so many. In a straight line, yeah, 40 to 50 kilometers. Let's see, we've got from here 20 to Manyaleti, roughly 20 to Manyaleti, and then Manyaleti is about, got to be at least maybe 10 or no, bigger, maybe 20 kilometers long, that length of Manyaleti. Okay, there's nothing here, so I'm not going to find anything. Yeah, this grey lurry might have been shouting. Let's continue. Maybe come back here a little bit later near sunset. Let's see if there was a cat here today. I believe there was. A lion was seen. I don't know whether it was yesterday or today. The only tracks that I could find around the dam were tracks that were set in the mud had dried. So that's a long time ago, when the water level was higher or when it had been raining. So the ground would have been wet when he was here. I'm not seeing any fresh tracks that giving me any indication of where he might have gone. And those impala are very relaxed for there to be a lion lying around here. So let's move on a little bit and explore a little bit further. But it would be interesting to find out how many different leopards that they recorded here at Thornybush. Particularly because what dictates populations of leopard are many factors. One of the primary factors I think that we could say is that really governs it is obviously the population of both lion and hyena. The greatest competition that leopard have are the two other main predators like leopard and lion. They don't really compete very much with cheetah. They have different hunting techniques, different hunting habitats. It's one of nature's ways of making sure that the three big cats don't clash too much, is giving them different social structures, giving them different hunting techniques, different prey species to some extent, because essentially they all chase impala. But the one thing is that they have different hunting techniques, and so those hunting techniques require specific habitats. And the density of the population of lion and hyena will dictate how successful leopard are at breeding, because they might be successful as adults in terms of hunting and surviving amongst a high population of lion and leopard, but it's their offspring that will be at danger. It's their offspring, and it's the survival of offspring that becomes a critical factor, because with a high population of other predators, there's likely to be a high mortality rate amongst offspring. So that's one factor that can affect the level of or rather the number of leopards. And then of course the other factor that we have is the prey species densities, and prey species density is dictated by habitat and vegetation and the availability of food for those species. So an area can hold only a certain number of animals, and an area that has a very high density and a very high diversity of prey species obviously is going to have a much higher density of leopards. So if we could take an area that I know very well, because I've worked and lived in right throughout the Sabi Sand, where there is a very high density of leopard and a very high density of prey species, you could say that leopard territories are relatively small compared to, say, an area I don't know very well, but I visited once. But even, okay, they take the extreme, like an area like the Kalahari, where everything is so spread out, and leopard's territory will be so much larger. Within the same sized area, you might only have 5 leopard, where here you might have 15. That's a hypothetical, but I think you get the kind of numbers thing that I'm trying to get at, is that it's all relative. And as you know me so well by now, some of you, it depends. Depends. But I've given you all the depending factors. Time to venture a little bit further west. Find a loop to go around that way. We've got when we get to that, if we get to, in fact we'll cross over this next cut line, which is this cut line here, which is the southeaster, unless there's something on. I'm wondering, should we cross over it, or should we, if that cat went that way, let's go down the southeaster. We come back up the southwestern and we'll come around this way. This sharp turn. Ryan, just let me know what sort of the strength of the signal here while I'm here. Might as well do this, and I can show everybody what we're doing as well. It's quite interesting. I've cut off the top part of the map. Yeah, but how many dBs? So this is the northern section of Thornybush. It fits on. Thank you. So this is the top northern section of, and at the moment we're not going to reach the northern section. I'm not even going to. We're not even halfway there at the moment. We're a third of the way there. This is the area that we are in at the moment. This is the southern section of Thornybush. Now right down here in the southeast is where we are at camp. It's not where we are right now. This is where camp is. This little section of the Timbavati River that flows out of the Thornybush Game Reserve, let me move it a little bit. This little section is the section that we see. We went across this crossing over here this afternoon. Now, where we've just been, this dam is a dam up here. We've ventured, we've got a lovely signal that sends a strong signal all the way up this drainage line. And we are now at this junction up here, which is called Longwan Road. And I'm just going to put in here 22 to 25. So that's how strong our signal is. This is where I was this morning, and this is here. You can see this dotted line is more or less where our signal ends, because with the topography we can see a contour line of the map, and this is more or less just on the northern side of the ridge of this contour. So what we're doing now is we've got a slightly higher ground here, and I'm expecting that all of this area here should be good. And so what we're doing is we're having a look just to see how good the signal is going to be, how good it is. Okay, stop playing. So this is this big cut line that we're on now. We've just done this very sharp turn, and we're now heading back down towards the southwest, although this is called the southeast of this cut line, and there's one parallel called the southwester. And I want to go down this way. We're going to come across this way. Let's go see this dam. Let's see if we can get to see this dam this afternoon, and then we can come up here. This is near an airstrip. We can come back up here and do a loop around, and let's see what we can find around this big loop. But just to give you an idea, there is this huge area in the southwest of the reserve with some beautiful drainage lines and dams. There are a bunch of dams west of us from camp, but at the moment, until we sort things out up on the mountain, we're not going to be getting there very easily. And then of course there's all of this northern region that, well, we're going to explore at a later date. We have to take things slow. We can't just sort of burst onto this reserve and see the whole thing at once. It is vast. It is huge. So, as they say in Swahili, pole pole, moja pa moja. And tracks of a big male giraffe heading down this road. This is an old map, so there are a number of roads that aren't on the map, and there are a number of roads that are on the map but don't exist anymore because they have been eroded through gullies and they're are not drivable anymore. So we've got to take a lot of this with a pinch of salt. We are busy updating some digital maps coupled with Google Earth maps, and so we're working on a really high-tech system to be able to do things. It's not going to be that we're going to be able to broadcast our position maybe, but I'll certainly be able to see. I'm hoping I'll be able to see where we are. Oops, I've got the map on the speaker, microphone thingy. Microphone, not speaker. You see, now this road doesn't exist on the map. No, this road is not on the map at all. It might go through to that dam. But I'm going to stick to what I know right now. And I'm sure that will bring us around to that. Just keep in mind that there's a road to our right. So when we come around onto the other cut line, running parallel to this one, but further west, heading back to the northeast, there are times when these areas up on the high ground will have perhaps a lot more wildlife than right now. I think there are a lot of animals hiding in thickets at the moment on account of this cold wind, a little bit of rain. Animals got wet on a day like today when there was already a cold wind blowing. You can imagine that wind chill factor, once they were wet, cooled them down, made them a lot colder. So a lot of them are probably lying down somewhere, legs tucked underneath them, just waiting for the weather to pass. A lot of them being the herbivores that they are, can still process food, chewing the cud. They don't have to really go out and select food. So this is the little ridge I showed you on the map that I wanted to explore, and it's all looking good. Gives us a nice some bigger loops to explore when we're out on drive. I think for the first 2 days it was mostly local. It was mostly making sure that everything was working, and if we needed to get back to camp to fix things, we were relatively close by. And I suppose it's all got to do with confidence too. I'm getting more and more confident in my knowledge of the reserve, as well as my knowledge of the equipment and how it works, as well as the functioning of the equipment, to venture a little bit further. As well as I've got Rob on the vehicle, and if anything goes wrong, Rob will do it. Nee.
Yeah, man. That's not these things.
See, now we're going back into this dip, so let's see how things work out going into these dips. History has shown that when we're in these deep drainage lines, we're likely to go into a signal shadow. Oh, there was a green pigeon. Oh, it landed in the marula. That's very far away. But it landed with another one. I don't know if we'll pick it up. And we're sadly not going to get the color. Is that good enough to stop here?
Yeah, they're very tiny.
They are. I don't know what your zoom is on this camera. I must actually look.
I can only,
Oh, there, I can just make it out. Yeah. Okay.
You can see a silhouette basically.
Yeah.
You can see the sky.
Green pigeons. Prettiest pigeons of all. Well, the prettiest that we get. I think there are some prettier pigeons in the world. Okay.
Oh well.
We'll find some more, especially along the river, along the Timbavati River. We're bound to find more. There's some fig trees and there's some other trees, that jackalberries in particular. Some of the jackalberries are in fruit at the moment, and we should hear on a sunny day the lovely cooing of the green pigeons. Well, there's a pair of hornbills down the road. Let's see if we can sneak up on them. I actually wanted to take this road that we're passing now, but I will come back to it so we can avoid the dip for the time being. Just roll a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. The hornbill's gone. No, we lost the hornbill. Flown into the guarri bush. There's the other one flying into the terminalia. No, they're not going to let us look at them today. Oh well. I have no doubt I'll find the hornbill for you on another occasion. I think I got that. I know that the question came from Ellen. Hello, Ellen. Ellen Berger from a little, actually I don't know how little it is, but a town called Decatur in Illinois. Ellen is a teacher at the Brush College School. Although it's your weekend now, do say hi to the kids for me. Tell them I miss them. And maybe, yes, maybe we'll be there Monday. You can say hello to them on Monday. I think Ellen was asking whether there are other vehicles on Thornybush and whether we're allowed to go to the sightings. I think if that is correct, maybe. And here's an elephant been feeding on this zebra wood. This is a zebra wood. This is actually called ebony, but it's not true ebony. Find all those lovely African carvings. That's the blue gori, or the tall gori. Lovely African carvings that are black and very, very heavy wood, that for those who have been to Africa, and sometimes you might find African curios in the towns and cities somewhere overseas, they call it ebony because it's lovely dark wood, but it's not really true ebony. And nowadays, because the zebra wood is becoming so scarce, they're cheating. A lot of people are carving stuff out of softer woods, polishing it with black shoe polish and calling it ebony. And all you got to do is feel the weight of it. I'm sure merchants are not going to allow you to dig your fingernails into it, but if you can surreptitiously underneath it mark something with your fingernail, then it's definitely not zebra wood ebony. Okay, there's no way around this wattle. We're going to have to squeeze underneath it. As long as the GoPros can make it. Maybe that one. The camera just passed straight through those two twigs. No, that was skill. No, that was skill. So Ellen, the vehicles. This radio, you might know if you can see it, but this radio here is the game drive radio. It comes through the same earpiece that Brian is trying to talk to me on, and it's making a lot of noise, and I can't have it on all the time, so I pop it on every now and then and listen. And then at the moment there's a lot of hissing and a lot of static on it, so it's very distracting for me to have on all the time. So for the time being it's off while I'm answering questions and while I'm talking to you, and every now and then I switch it off. And look at this mistletoe in full bloom. This tree is full of mistletoe. Wow, look at that. Fortunately, that white sky is not helping us with a picture like this, but it's really stunning. Now, some of you might be bored with me and my trees and flowers and sometimes birds and insects and things, but you know, when there are no big animals and we have the weather like this, I like to show you something. I like to give you a greater idea of our little piece of Africa, and to do that we're going to look at things like this. This tree is riddled with mistletoe. It's not a very healthy tree. It's actually a black monkey thorn, Acacia burkii, if you want to keep a tree list. So yes, I do hear about sightings. Of course, there is the other aspect to sighting. This is why this road is going on a detour. It's been washed away down there. Kabisa. At the moment, until we learn, and I'm saying we because it's all of you and me, until we learn our way around better, and until I get to, I lie in bed at night and I look at this map and I'm trying to memorize names, and I know there are a lot of names of the animals and things like, well, just, and they're all Shangaan names, so it helps me because I know Shangaan. But it takes a while for me to put it all into perspective. It says Albeda Road, I know where that is. If somebody says especially today. A little bit of driving. Should have known. Okay. Little detour because of the donga. Are you back yet? Okay. I'm just going to record. I'm just going to move this. Obviously not moving it the way I want it to. This is quite a main road. This is the southwester. What did I do with my pen now? I thought I clipped it to the paper. I did. Okay. Do a little bit of admin and see how things have gone here. I'll show you how we do this now. So, excuse me. The road that we've just come off was called Mfezi Road. Mfezi means Mozambique spitting cobra. We came down the southeaster and we've come across this drainage line. We're going to go up to the Susu Dam, see if it is a dam. But we lost you. You see this blue line is a drainage line, and going through there we lost you. So up here we've got about 10 to 16, which is good. And well, this big, what's called the southwester, going up to this Jackalberry, is just an area that we'll have to avoid this little loop, this little connection road, because it goes down into the dip. But we're going back up onto high ground, the top of this little ridge. We might not have anything on the back there, but we'll have a look. We might. It might still be in line of sight. So we're going to go back past this dam, and then we'll see if we can signal it, and then come back down Long One Road, back past. Actually, we'll come back down the southeast and come this way, and then we'll do that. We might get lost. We'll see. We'll see. One step at a time. Let's go and see if we can find this other little dam. Getting a little color in the sky, which means that it's getting closer to sunset. So I don't know how much time we've got. We've got too much more exploring this afternoon. But that doesn't really matter. Why? Because we've got tomorrow. And the next day, and the next day, and the next. So quite a main road. Excuse me. Quite a main road that we're on now. Obviously an access road for different properties. Especially once upon a time. And both the electrical power line that comes in, as well as the telephone line that's coming in. Probably to a lodge or a homestead somewhere further north. Ooh, 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 ooh. Kitty cat. He walked here. The big male. This is a historic moment. This is Africa. And a historic moment here in Africa, in our little venture for the next 3 months, in trying to find some very special creatures to follow and to look at. This is my first moment of finding tracks of a big male lion. Now, I'm going to try my best to maneuver the vehicle in a way that we'll be able to see them. And not so much from that angle. We really need to be that side of them, on the eastern side of them, to get the light on the tracks much. But there, that might be possible if I just and he's walked up this road. Is it still too close to the vehicle?
Just trying to find it? No, it's fine.
And I'm guessing that this is Marvin. The big man named Marvin. And why we couldn't find him this morning, because he had come west and he's now gone north. And I had a funny feeling he wasn't going to sit still in this weather. And I'm even going to mark it on here, just by the by, just to keep track of tracks. Keep track of tracks. We are on the southwester. This is round about here. And what is the date? The 19th.
Yeah, I think so.
'18th. Jumping the gun there, Mark. We don't want to rush time by too fast. Okay, let's head up north. Go up towards that airstrip. Airstrips become favourite hunting ground for the lions sometimes. But as you've noticed, there are very few open grassy patches here with short grass. I mean, we came across that lovely open grassland a little bit earlier on the top of that ridge, and I have no doubt that when we get to the top of this next ridge where we're looking for this little dam, I'm quite sure that we'll also have some open grasses, but there'll also be a lot of tall grasses. Wildebeest, on the other hand, like short grasses. or prefer short grasses. And with the short grasses on the airstrip, especially at night, wildebeest like to come out onto the airstrips at night. And unfortunately, the lion know this, and the lion learn this because generations of cubs have been raised eating wildebeest on the edges of airstrips. So when it comes to them hunting, they learn that it's easy hunting when it comes to wildebeest and airstrips. That's one of the reasons, in my opinion, having monitored airstrips and wildebeest and things for over 40 odd years in this part of the world, and the decline in numbers as a result of good lion populations, but also just wildebeest not having open areas anymore. And that is just natural succession of the bush. It's just how the bush works, is that grasslands become bushland, and then elephant populations, large mammal populations, eventually over time open them up to grasslands again, because the time during the century or couple of centuries that it takes for trees like this to grow, they denude the soil, and it needs all this wood, as it were, to be on the ground, feeding the soil again, grasses growing, succession of plants for trees to find root and eventually grow again. So sadly, wildebeest numbers are on a decline. I'm going to check if these tracks are still there. Doesn't look like it, but there's been a tractor here this afternoon. But this might be the dam. I think this is the dam, in fact. Let's take a look. Remember I said we need to look for a road that comes in from the right? I think this is the one. It could be. And it could be that it's a road that goes past that little dam and then comes out the other side on that other southeaster. This is the southwester. I think it just refers to a road that heads south on the eastern side and the road that heads south on the western side of this particular drainage line. And maybe he came here. Our pussycat, where are you? Oh, don't tell me we lost. Behind the damn wall, that's fine. Still no signal.